Let me just read the news first. The U.S. Sun reports, tense clash. China accuses U.S. of slaughtering black people and says Americans have little faith in democracy as talk tensions flare. They said the two nations met face-to-face in Anchorage, Alaska on Thursday evening for the first time since President Joe Biden took office. But any hopes that bilateral relations could be reset after years of trade wars and tensions over cybersecurity during Trump's presidency were quickly stamped out. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan opening the meeting by referring to concerns over Beijing's human rights record. China's top foreign affairs official Yang Jiechi thunderously responded by accusing the U.S. of its own human rights violations, saying, "We hope the U.S. will do better on human rights," Yang said during a 15-minute speech. "The fact is that there are many problems in the U.S. regarding human rights, which is admitted by the U.S. itself." Yang added that human rights issues in the U.S., such as racism, were deep-seated. They did not just emerge over the past 4 years, such as Black Lives Matter. This is really annoying to me because the narrative, for the most part, from Black Lives Matter is overhyped, exaggerated, and just, I'm going to say it, not true. I don't know if, I think you may have seen this, Ian, but did you see the poll where they asked liberals and conservatives how many innocent, or how many black people were killed by police in 2019? And liberals said over 1,000. And the actual number is 27. So what's happening is, we have this media narrative, this big lie, where they keep saying these things over and over again. And you get these people who genuinely believe that cops are going around hunting down black people.
Right.
If I thought that was true, I'd be out there with Black Lives Matter every single day. Yeah. But we know it's not true. Any death caused by the cops, it's a tragedy. Either a cop was defending himself, it's still a tragedy. Or the cop was committing a crime, especially a tragedy. Now China is exploiting this. Our own media is tearing our country apart, in my opinion. And now China is accusing us of being weak.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. China obviously can't look in the mirror and never call out their own sins. For example, obviously just how oppressive they are to their own people, the re-education camps of Uyghurs, the lack, basically the Hong Kong and threatening their autonomy. And jailing basically any political dissident. So they have obviously no moral standing on this issue. I just find it hilarious that they think that the U.S. government is sanctioning basically all this terrorism against one, racial demographic.
I don't think they believe it.
No, but they're accusing us of this.
I think it's really interesting. In previous administrations, would China have stood up so brazenly and insulted, degraded the United States to their faces?
Nope. The iron wasn't hot enough.
But you know what I think?
I mean, if you remember under the Obama administration and the plane situation, the plane confrontation, and they basically made them almost, I think it was they wouldn't let them land or get off the plane. They basically had to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this happened under the Obama administration. Yeah. I don't know if this is something that, it was almost an international incident that had to get stamped out quickly. Because China, they ramped up the aggression against, foreign diplomats, or I guess U.S. diplomats in this case. And then you have the whole anal swabs thing. U.S. diplomats entering the country, and they had to get a COVID test by that swab.
We'll jump to that one in a second. But the point I wanted to make is, as the tensions escalate, as U.S. Power wanes internationally, and other countries are losing confidence in whether or not the United States could even defend a place like Taiwan or the South China Sea, China is getting more and more brazen. They know the narrative's not true. They don't care. They're putting on a show for the people of the world to say, we're not scared of America anymore. Yeah. And we're going to stand up, and we're going to use their own fracturing of their culture against them. That's what's happening. Now, as for the butt swabs thing, which was a huge story, I think it's fair to say if Donald Trump was president, that would not have happened.
Yeah, that's fair to say. But I also, and we were talking about this, I don't think under the Trump administration, they would willingly send out a group of diplomats to China in the middle of a trade war, and basically subject themselves to something like this. I mean, during the trade war negotiations for the first trade deal that they agreed to, all the negotiations happened in Washington, D.C., literally across from the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, which is the White House.
But they're sending diplomats to China for what, routine work?
I don't know. I mean, we had an ambassador we had a U.S. ambassador to China, and we still have diplomatic relations with them. But, There is no reason to subject our own diplomats to that. It's just an embarrassment.
It's amazing. For those that aren't familiar, U.S. diplomats were forcefully anal swabbed by China.
Yeah.
And I think that's another sign of just attempting to humiliate the United States. Forceful swabbing of the bums of American personnel. And they're basically, look, at this meeting, it was 15 minutes of the Chinese, officials yelling at America. And the Americans just sat there and took it.
Saber rattling.
So I just wanted to point out that whole confrontation with the Obama administration. So the U.S. military always sends out a set of rolling air stairs on every single presidential trip. And so they have to seek Chinese approval to use the equipment. And when President Obama arrived in China, the Chinese reversed their position. They wouldn't let him get off the plane.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like a humiliation tactic.
Yeah.
But was Obama supposed to be there?
Yeah, it was. I think it was actually supposed to be a official presidential visit to meet with President Xi.
So this wouldn't have happened under Trump. Would you think it's fair to say?
Well, it didn't happen under Trump because when he went to China, he got like a huge welcoming ceremony. I mean, people remember obviously his meeting with Kim Jong Un in Vietnam and Singapore. I think it was just Singapore. They had at least 2 meetings, if I'm not mistaken. But when he went to China, there was a huge ceremony. There was a huge celebration of the U.S. president going to China. And if you remember correctly, President Xi and President Trump actually had deep affection for one another. But at the same time, Trump was telling everybody here in the United States, obviously we're going to be implementing all these tariffs on China. He had a lot of tough talk. And this is where he gets the criticism for being, cozying up to authoritarians because of how he approaches them. Now, his actual rhetoric is different from the actual policy because the policy was good, even if the rhetoric didn't match it. And I think that's what people constantly get at Trump for. But he was particularly strong on China, and Biden is particularly weak on China.
Could it have been that fanfare and that celebration was because they were scared of Trump?
That's possible.
Look, man, Trump was an erratic,
bombastic guy. We're still number 1, baby.
I look at it like this. Even people, even Trump supporters recognize that Trump is kind of, erratic, I guess is the right way to put it. Meaning he just says, do it, get it done. It pops into his head, he says, do it. So if he gets mad on a whim, he could be like, shut it down. No deal for you. So China knows this trade war is on.
Yeah.
The tariffs are a legit problem for them. So they start kissing his ass.
Yeah, I think the Chinese Communist Party is a glass cannon in that they're very fragile. From what I've been discerning from our guests in the last few weeks, they're on the verge of collapse, but they don't want to show it. And if they sense weakness, they're going to go and bite it because they can hit hard from a distance. But if they get attacked, they got a real problem. And Biden is not an attacker.
I don't
physically.
I don't think the Chinese Communist Party is particularly weak. I think they're still on the rise. I think it is what's changing though is the what's the best word I could probably put it on? Sort of the image. There was a fallacy that Russia was somehow the most dangerous country in the world, and that was our geopolitical foe and threat. And they hijacked an election and basically installed Trump as, Putin's, lapdog, as crazy as that blue anon talk. But then everybody just ignored China. And now we're realizing everything that's happening there. You have the Uyghur re-education camps. You have Hong Kong autonomy withering away. You have the oppression of basically everyone and their political dissidents. They have the Belt and Road Initiative, which basically it mortgages the future of basically every single country abroad that China does business with, particularly in Africa. And they build up their infrastructure in exchange for they'll give, say, a country like Mozambique or name your country in Africa, $1 billion loans, but we get to control your ports.
It sounds
and they have to pay back that loan.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like they're displacing the IMF.
Yeah.
That's the economic hitman strategy.
Right.
Yep.
And so they get all this economic control over these countries. and they get to gain access to their valuable resources, whatever mining, whatever, grain, you name it, farming. And they just consolidate that power. And the reason why they're still on the come up is, and this obviously is tied into the political oppression, is that when you only have one single thought, you can get a lot more done. I think Bill Maher was talking about it, as well as Tucker Carlson, interestingly enough, in the same week, about how China is particularly strong in their military because they just focus on the job and just get it done. Right. And I think Bill Maher's criticism in particular, it wasn't praiseworthy of the Chinese Communist Party, but really highlighting how because they're so authoritarian, they can get more done, and we are so democratic, we can get nothing done. And it's just
democratic is one way to put it. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.